Hey there, so you're thinking about moving to Elizabeth, Colorado? Awesome choice. Let's chat about what it's like in this small little town. First of all, Elizabeth, Colorado really still represents small town vibes and a sense of community. In Elizabeth, everybody still knows everybody, and that's what makes it feel like home. From friendly neighbors, local farmers markets, community events, 4-H, rodeo, high school football games, there's always something happening to bring folks together. Secondly, housing in Elizabeth is more affordable. The motto that I use to describe Elizabeth is drive a little, save a lot. Elizabeth has resale homes within city limits that are very affordable, and then there's new communities being established all throughout the area that offer much less expensive, brand new single-family homes than in the neighboring communities of Parker, Castle Rock, and Franktown. Although you will not find very many multifamily homes here, so just keep that in mind. Additionally, the tax rate in Elbert County, which is where Elizabeth is located, is much lower than the neighboring Douglas County, which definitely impacts overall affordability. However, a word of caution is to definitely pay attention to and be careful or be on the lookout for some steep special assessments, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when I get to the cons. So thirdly, and what I think might be the most appealing feature of Elizabeth, is the wide open spaces. Whether you simply want to see the mountains or the wildlife, be more than a rock's distance throw from your neighbor, or if you have horses or livestock, Elizabeth might be the perfect area for you. There are still large acreages available, as well as ranchettes and organized communities built on 5 to 10 acre lots, making owning your own little slice of heaven a very real possibility in this cute little town. Finally, location is really a key advantage of Elizabeth. So while there's lots of open space and land still available, homes with acreages, you're still within an hour of the big cities like Denver and Springs, and you're only 20 to 30 minutes from Castle Rock and Parker. And getting to these areas is really pretty straightforward and accessible outside of high volume traffic areas. And now for the cons. Elizabeth really feels to me like it represents this idea of everything being a double-edged sword. You really can't live in this small town without sacrificing your big city amenities, which brings me to my first con of living in this community, and that is the limited amenities. If you're the kind of person that needs your daily caffeine fix or loves retail therapy, you might need to venture beyond Elizabeth's border for that. While the town definitely has its charms, it's no shopping mecca. Be prepared to travel outside of Elizabeth for your shopping and entertainment needs, as well as really anything else. There are a handful of local restaurants and a few of the fast food chains popping up, but there really are none of the bigger, more popular dining options without getting into Castle Rock or Parker. There's now a Safeway and a Walmart, but there's no bigger grocery store or general retail markets. Secondly, and probably one of the biggest bummers about this community, is the long commute. If you're like most people who live in Elizabeth and have a job in the city, brace yourself for a bit of a trek. The daily commute to Denver and Springs can be a bit of a grind, especially during the regular rush hour. There's pretty much one way in and one way out on this single lane highway with very few places to pass, which means if you get behind a truck, good luck. There's also a series of stoplights throughout the main area, and that really makes things bog down during the heavier rush hour times or school drop-off and pickup. So plan accordingly to avoid getting stuck in traffic. And during winter weather, give yourself tons of extra time, which brings me to my next con about living in Elizabeth. Winters can be downright cold with heavy snow, frosty temps, and wind chills that cut through you, and then snow drifts that make travel often treacherous or impossible. In fact, Elizabeth is one of the areas you may find lots of road closures due to weather. And because the elevation in Elizabeth is nearly 6,500 feet, the temperatures are always a little bit colder and the growing season is a little bit shorter. If you're not a fan of the cold, you're going to want to bundle up or maybe keep searching. The fourth con, and something that's not necessarily unique to the area, I mentioned it earlier, but something that I want to make sure that you think about before you look at a new build specifically in Elizabeth, is the special assessment or special taxing districts. So as I already mentioned, one of the advantages to Elizabeth is affordability, specifically how you can buy a brand new home for much less than in other neighboring areas. However, when you're looking at these new builds, be careful and look for HOA fees, special taxes and special assessments. These special assessments are basically the fees for putting in infrastructure in a new community that previously had nothing. The builder is passing on this fee to the new homeowner, and sometimes it can be thousands of dollars a month for an unspecified term. This additional fee greatly impacts your monthly payment and therefore the affordability. The next downside to living in Elizabeth is a limited number of jobs and career opportunities, which is why many people commute, which is why we've already discussed there's a lot of commuter traffic. Elizabeth is really limited to those previously described retail, restaurant, dining options, and then your local government types of jobs. But the close proximity to the Denver Tech Center, DTC, and then larger communities with greater employment opportunities makes commuting doable, but it's definitely something you want to consider, especially depending on what stage of your life you're at and what you're hoping to accomplish. Remote working or willingness to commute is probably going to be your best bet. And finally, Elizabeth is a welcoming community, but it is not exactly a melting pot of cultures. The activities available to you and your kids are going to be limited to like general sports and then agricultural related things, showing horses, 4-H. If you're the kind of person that craves a little bit more diversity in your life, you might find yourself longing for a big city vibe. Or at least you need to get on board with spending some significant time on the road, schlepping back and forth outside of town for your hobbies and your cultural activities. All right, well, the bottom line is that Elizabeth is a really great small town with a laid-back, slow-moving community, and it has lots of appeal. But it also has some pretty important and big drawbacks and limitations. So just make sure that you do your research before you make a move. If you have any more questions about Elizabeth, or really anything real estate, feel free to reach out to me. And if you found this information helpful, I would sure appreciate you showing me some love by liking and subscribing to my channel.